You're listening to Double Time, your daily accessible technology show. Now, here's your hosts, Steven Scott and Shaun Preece.
Hey, Shaun Preece, how are you?
Hello, Steven Scott. I am doing fantastic, thank you. How are you this midweek Wednesday?
Midweek Wednesday, yes. Have you just told us the day and also that it's midweek at the same time?
Well, midweek, it's always a little bit, I can't wait for the weekend, and it's just a long way to go. So usually midweek is a little bit downbeat, Steven Scott. Sorry, I feel like I've put us on a negative spiral here.
You have,
I do
because
apologise.
I started the show off on an upbeat note.
You did.
And this is what I get. I get beaten up for my upbeatness.
I think that's what threw me, to be honest. I'm just not used to it.
I know. I normally start with a rant, don't I? No rants today from me, although I've got to say, our inbox today is full of, let's just say, discontent.
Oh, what have you done this time?
No, not me. No, not me.
What?
You.
Oh, no. Me?
Yes, you.
What? Okay, give me a clue. What have I said? I'm so sorry.
I'm going to give you the words meta, and I'm going to give you the acronym AI, and also the acronym UK. A lot of people in the UK are going out buying these Meta Ray-Bans and finding out that things aren't quite as they expected. We're going to get to that.
Okay.
We'll get to that.
Right.
We will get into that. But we're going to do things a little bit differently today because normally we put our interviews in the second half of the show, but we're going to dive right in. Because today at CNIB are hosting a special webinar, which actually takes place just after our show ends today. If you're listening to us live on AMI Audio or you're watching the premiere on YouTube, and if you're listening to the podcast, if you're one of those people who I know immediately jump on the podcast at noon Eastern every single day it shows up, then immediately afterwards at 1 p.m. Eastern, today there is going to be a special webinar. It will be rebroadcast later in the day and available on demand as well from CNIB. Full details are all going to be in our show notes. But today the topic is all on cybersecurity, and Shaun got the chance to catch up with two wonderful folks from the CNIB Smart Life Technology Programme to learn more about it.
Okay, so cybersecurity. It's just so daunting to me because it used to be, back in my day, it was just an antivirus. There you go, sorted. You don't have to worry about a thing. But now there's just so many different aspects when it comes to cybersecurity because we live our lives online. My phone has all my life on it, and I want to keep that secure. But how do you do that, and what does it mean? So joining us today to help us with that from the CNIB, we have Wendy and David. Hi, guys. Thank you for joining us today.
Hello. Glad to be here.
Hi, and thank you for having us.
Let's try and demystify this. CNIB are helping out in October with National Cybersecurity Month. I don't really know where to start. When someone says cybersecurity, I mean, where do you even start with a topic as huge as that?
I mean, it's a really good question because it's such a daunting sounding term, like you were saying. What it really means, though, is basically making sure that people who you'd rather not have looking at your stuff or using your devices can't get onto your computer or your phone or your tablet or similar. And so that means like a lot of things like, for instance, making sure that you don't open up attachments from strangers that might be trying to hack your computer. Make sure you have a good password and are able to get access to it when you need it. It means a lot of things like that. It basically means remembering to lock your phone the way you lock your house's door. I like to think of it as.
No, that's a really good point. The thing is, though, I mean, I totally understand that, but sometimes it's just how do you manage those aspects, right? Because I like to think, I'm never going to fall for that phishing, that funny email that says it's from whoever, Apple, and asking me to go to this link. I'm never going to fall for that. But the truth of the matter is, it's so easy just to do it, one time when you're busy and you're rushed and you do that, and you just nothing is sort of foolproof, right?
Oh, absolutely.
We're all going to fall for this at one point. So can I just start where I kicked off here with antiviruses? Because I kind of think, well, Windows has got Windows Defender built in. Do we need an antivirus in today's day and age, and especially on a smartphone?
Okay, that's a really interesting question. So, I mean, part of the answer is, of course, Windows Defender is an antivirus. It's actually a really good one. They've been doing a lot of testing, and I'm sure you remember a few years ago, it was kind of the, well, I guess it's better than nothing thing. But these days, when they actually try it against known viruses or suspicious viruses, it actually works just as well as all of those fancy commercial ones. So I might live to regret saying this, but most of the time, like 99.999% of the time, Windows Defender is going to do you just as well on your Windows computer as any of those other packages. And it does it in the background and you can safely ignore it. Now, obviously, if you're dealing with like corporate IT, there's all sorts of extra requirements, but mercifully, I don't have to think about that. So I'm happy recommending Windows Defender. On the yeah.
I'm glad to hear that because I recommend, no, you don't need an antivirus anymore.
Yeah.
Because sometimes those commercial antiviruses or antivirus programs, especially the ones that come pre-installed, can be a bit of a nightmare to uninstall if you're a screen reader user.
They can. I mean, they don't want you uninstalling them. In their defense, it's because they're afraid a virus might try to. If I was more cynical, I might say it's because they'd like you to renew your subscription. But yeah, exactly. So Windows Defender is great. You don't have to set it up. It's already there. It works, like I said, really well. It leaves you alone. And you can basically just forget it's there unless it ever needs to do anything. Now, on the question of smartphones, that's where I think it gets really interesting, actually, because the fact is you can't run antivirus on an iPhone at all for technical reasons. Basically, Apple designed the iPhone so that the different apps on it basically cannot talk to each other, except through very, very controlled ways run by Apple. And a big part of why they did this, actually, was to make life a lot harder for viruses. If you did install a malicious program on an iPhone, it would be very, very difficult. I don't want to say impossible because people can be very determined, but awfully close to impossible for it to break out and start interfering with your other apps or with the operating system, which is great. The downside of that, though, is that also applies to antivirus programs. So anything that claims to be antivirus for the iPhone, iOS, isn't actually. It might just be scanning your files to see if there's any like Windows Trojans on it, but it won't actually be able to protect your phone more than the built-in protections. Good news is the built-in protections are really good. The App Store does not tend to get malware on it, so that's a major vector there gone. And like I said, it would be very hard even for like something in a phishing message to break out of mail and get into the system. Android's a bit more complicated. There is antivirus for Android. I'm not a great expert in that. I've heard that there are some that are pretty good. Android is also very secure by default, but there have been occasional malware, so it is worth looking into there.
Yeah, they both Apple and Google have improved their security in the App Store themselves, right? So it's not so much of an issue as it used to be. So yeah, that's good to hear. So you mentioned their phishing attempts, and we hear this a lot. Antivirus doesn't always help you with that because it could be a link to a website to fill in and steal data rather than install a program on a device, for example. So can you give us explain more about phishing attempts?
Well, I mean, I think you just explained it really well there, actually. So phishing is where the big thing is they're actually more trying to play you than play your computer. And so basically, it's where they're trying to trick you with something. So excuse me, you get an email or a text message or whatever, and it's someone pretending to be someone who you would trust. So, like, they claim it's your bank. They claim it's your finance department of your company. They claim they're an old friend reaching out. And basically, the goal is to trick you. There'll be either, like, some software they want you to install that will then do something naughty on your phone or computer, like mine cryptocurrency. Or sometimes they're just going to try and trick you, make friends with you and then suddenly mention, oh, by the way, I really need $20,000. Could you lend me that? I actually started to get suckered in by one of those once. So, I do need to point out, someone who I met online who seemed really great. Eventually, they started talking a lot about cryptocurrency, and I worked out what was going on.
Yes,
Um,
red flags. Yes.
exactly. But, I'm just saying that, there's no shame in making a mistake at first, but do pay attention as
Yeah.
it goes on. So, you know, I often get text message spam, for instance, claiming to be from Canada Post, saying that they couldn't complete my delivery because reasons. Go to this website, and it's going to be like Canada Post dot top/ca was one I saw the other day.
Mm,
And if I click there, they would say, "Oh, you need to pay the fee, enter your credit card information."
I got you. Okay. So yeah, that's when they say fish, it's like a fishing trip. They're just,
Yeah,
sending this out to millions of people and seeing who bites and, what data they
precisely.
can get.
Precisely. They've
Um,
passed out their fishing rod, and they'll see who bites.
yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, wow. And Wendy, have you any experience of phishing attacks?
Oh yeah, for sure. And like you mentioned before, it's when there's like times when you get pretty tired or you're in a rush and you're expecting a maybe a package delivery or a text message you're expecting. And it's one of those things
Yes.
where scammers and hackers get pretty crafty in disguising the website, the link, especially when you're expecting it from. For example, I'm gonna pick on this bank. Sorry, bank. uh, my voice over will read it as uh CIBC, but it'll be like CIRB. So like, okay, well, that kind of sounds like the usual text message I get, but then tapping onto it, oh no, now it's asking for my personal information, my bank information, all those very important, like vital information for them to basically have identity theft. And then I have a little bit of sight, so it looks like the website with the same color schemes, but then it's always off by a little bit. And then I'm thinking, hold on, why is it asking me for all my personal information and for my identity and things like that? So that's something that I would then call the bank is like, hey, is this a text message from you guys and for what reason? And then I went back to the text message. I used my rotor and read it character by character, and it was basically C lowercase l B C. So visually, it looks like CIBC, but it was actually
Ah,
CLBC. So I'm just like, oh, that was very, very crafty. So it's just learning to have those techniques as a screen reader user to use our reading keys and sort of just like double check, dot the I's, cross the T's, and just double check on some of these links that it it happens to everybody.
as you said, David, there's no shame in it.
Mhm. Yeah, no, this is Wendy's example is a great way of how the screen reader can actually help you. If you're looking at that visually, you'd be a lot more likely to be fooled. But the screen reader lets you know that it's CLBC, which I don't think is a bank. So, that's a nice thing about screen readers.
And of course, when it comes to something like phishing attacks, I think, as you mentioned, David, and you, Wendy, as well, it's all about that go with your gut as well. If you do get that red flag feeling of, hang on, this doesn't seem quite right, then go with your gut and double check everything, because it's better to do that than to go through the hassle of trying to either,
Mhm.
close accounts or cards or whatever, chase it up and trying to fix
Mhm.
up the mess. Um, can I get on to passwords now? Because, wow, passwords have got so complicated, right? It used to be one password, very easy, I used for absolutely everything. And now it's saying, no, you can't do that. This isn't strong enough. It's got to be 8 characters with numbers and symbols and caps. And trying to keep track of all that is really difficult. Now, I know there are password managers out there, programs specifically that will remember and fill in, when you go to a website or an app, and it will fill it in for you, your password and username. But I've had trouble in the past finding one that's accessible, that works well with, NVDA or JAWS or whatever screen reader it may be. So have you got any recommendations for an accessible password manager?
Well, that's a really good question, actually. It's actually something we've been looking into, and we're going to be talking a bit about at today's session. So, we've found a couple that we think work really nicely. One of them is sorry, excuse me. One of them is actually completely free. You can pay for extra features, but all the core password stuff doesn't cost a penny. The other one there is a fee for. So the free one is called Bitwarden. And it's an open source password manager that you can install on Windows, on any of the web browsers, Chrome, Edge, Firefox. You can install on your iPhone, your iPad, Android devices, all sorts of things. And it syncs all of them across, and it's pretty decently accessible, actually. There's some keyboard shortcuts that you need to remember, but when you have them, it's pretty straightforward. You press the shortcut to bring it up, and you can create a new password in it, or you can get one from a list. It'll offer to autofill passwords, and if it doesn't offer, like I said, keyboard shortcut, and then you can just find it in a list. So we really like that one, actually. Bitwarden, it's called. All one word. The other pay one that we've been experimenting with, not as much because we're cheap, is called One Password. So that's all one word, the numeral one and then password together. And that one actually is often very heavily recommended as screen reader friendly. We've seen a lot of good things about it. There is a fee. You have to pay a few dollars a month for it. But what you get is a very smooth, very slick interface. It plays well with screen readers. It fills things in automatically. It's pretty straightforward. And all of these are very secure. You create a password, and you have to make sure you remember that one password because they can't reset it for you because they don't even know what it is. And you use that to log in. And then you have all your other passwords saved in there. So, I mean, hence the name of the one of them. You just need to remember the one password.
Yeah, I think I can handle that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I say that. Yeah, the master password. No, that's very good. The one problem I do find, because I've tried a few of these out in the past, I don't think I've tried Bitwarden before, but it's having these password managers available on every platform that you use. You know, for example, if I want to sign into Netflix on my Roku stick or my Apple TV, you know, well, first, is the password manager available on that specific platform? And no matter which one I've tried in the past, there's always been a platform where, oh, okay, I can't actually get hold of that. But then again, the way around that is to, you know, open up the app on your smartphone and you can at least see what the password is nice and easily from the app on your phone, right? Even if it can't fill it in for you. I'm just a very lazy person, David.
Yeah, so am I, which is why I'm always looking for shortcuts. Of course, devices like Roku, the Apple TV, they do often, when you try and sign in, they let you sign in directly on your phone too. So that's always an option as well when you can do that. The Apple TV, one of the things I like about it is you can bring up the on-screen keyboard on your phone and then type directly with all the voiceover things and with password integration. Obviously, that's not going to be the case with all the other ones. And yeah, like you said, I don't think either of these have Roku apps, unfortunately.
And on password managers as well, I just thought, because it isn't just passwords, you can keep and secure other information in there. Wendy, have you got any more on password managers?
Yeah. You know, whether you choose to use the password manager on the iPhone or iOS or any kind of your Android devices, I'd like to have that around just because I myself, guilty as charged, always forget my bank machine, debit card, PIN codes. I can enter it 100 times and I still forget it, especially when you don't use it too often. And especially with a debit Visa these days, it's just a tap and then you go, or Apple Pay and then you go. And then when you need to enter those PIN, it's like, oh shoot, which one is it? Is it this one or that one or that one? And one of the great ways how
Yes.
I manage it is I use the Notes app on my iPhone because I always have my iPhone with me. And in the Notes app, the first line is basically the title. So I wouldn't put anything there. Maybe just to say pin or pin me, something to disguise, but that I would know what it is. And then after that, enter in the information such as bank of my name, and then my pin and updated on such month on this year. So then I know this is the most current one or the recent one. And you can then find the More button near the top right corner of the screen and swipe right to find a Lock button. By pressing on that Lock button, and depending on how you set your security, you can either use your Touch ID, Face ID, or a passcode to unlock. So then anybody who maybe like you have a family friend who just happens to be looking for something for you and happen to be in your Notes app wouldn't come across and say, oh, well, that's your PIN. That way, putting on the lock will block anyone from seeing it, and then to view the note, you then will have to enter in your either your Touch ID, Face ID, or the passcode. Now, it is good to keep in mind though that if you had a previous passcode and you forgot what it was to unlock the note, it will be impossible to retrieve just for extra security.
David, can you tell me more about this? Is another thing I'm seeing a lot of recently when I'm going to websites and even apps now. When I'm getting to the login screen, it's asking me if I want to log in with a passkey. Can you give us any more information about what is that?
Passkeys are really neat, actually. They're not doing a great job of explaining them, I'm afraid, which is too bad. Basically, they're a new standard that is ultimately hoped to replace passwords. So the problems with passwords are pretty obvious. You have to remember what they are. Other people can guess them. And so on and so forth. So the idea with the passkey is to take advantage of all of those fancy security features that are in our devices to authenticate us instead, and then have the device remember that it's us. So my phone knows what my face looks like. Other people's phones know what their fingerprints are. So what that means is that it can very quickly authenticate me, tell that it's me. And so what it can do then is store basically a cryptographic key to access a website, a specific account on a website or app or whatever. And when it goes to the website, the phone can just check it's me. And then once it's satisfied that, share the key to get in. And the great advantage of this is that there is literally no password. There's some places, Microsoft, for instance, you can literally remove your password from your Microsoft account completely and sign in entirely with the passkey. So what that would look like would be when you sign into your computer, instead of typing in a password, you would ideally grab your phone, log into your phone, and then it would unlock. In practice, they can also work with a PIN, so you can remember a 4 to 6 digit number that would unlock it on the computer. So that's sort of the ideal, is no passwords. You just use the things that are on you to get into everything. And this sounds less secure, but it's actually a lot more secure because the pass keys are these long 128-bit byte or bit or some such number. I don't remember the exact number.
Yes.
Alphanumeric hexadecimal strings that would take a lot longer to guess than, say, my password guessed. What's slightly less good is moving the passkeys around can be a little bit inconvenient. So Apple, Google, and Microsoft have all built out ecosystems to move passkeys around in. So if you use an Apple phone, you can create a passkey that will then automatically be on your Apple laptop as well, so that in both cases you would just use Face ID or Touch ID to get in and you wouldn't have to worry about anything else. On the other hand, if you're using an Apple phone with a Windows computer, that gets a lot harder. The officially supported way is that the computer will bring up a QR code that you scan on your phone that then tells the phone it's okay to talk to the computer, and then the phone sends over the passkey. The other way is using a password manager. This is one of the nice things about the ones I was mentioning earlier, like Bitwarden, 1Password, things like that, is you can save your passkeys in there. And what that means is that they then automatically show up. So, let me walk you through what this would all look like in practice. Let's say I was creating a new Google account on my Windows computer. Go to google.com, find the create an account button, come up with a new email address. It asks me if I want to save a passkey. I press yes, and my password manager asks if it would like me to save that as my Google passkey. I just press the button saying yes. And then after that, all I have to do to sign into Google again is when I go to Google sign in, I will get a message from my password manager saying sign in with the passkey. I press yes. And it may prompt me to put in my password manager password or PIN, but that's it. And I can grab my phone, and if I try to sign into a Google app on my phone, the password manager will pop up and say, do you want to use your passkey? I just press the button, and I'm signed in. So when it works well, it's actually a lot less fuss than a lot less fuss than passwords. And people who understand cryptography a lot better than I do say that it is actually way more secure. So
I'm not even bothered about the security. I'm never going to forget my fingerprint or my face.
Exactly. I usually bring my face with me, so that's great.
Exactly. It's just far more convenient. No, that sounds amazing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really need to get into those a bit more.
Mm-hmm. That's one of the nice things about that one password manager, by the way. It tells you what sites have passkeys and helps you set them up.
Oh, fantastic. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you mentioned a session for today earlier on, David. So there is an event where people can tune in and hear more tips, advice, and this great information. So can you tell us more about that?
I'd be thrilled to. So this is an event where it's not just us, actually. We have a special guest, Eric Schmidt of the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity, which is the part of the government's communications security establishment that's responsible for protecting all of the computer and network systems of the government and of key industries. So he will certainly know pretty much all there is to know about cybersecurity. I don't think there's ever been a major hack of any of those systems. At least if there has, I haven't heard about it. So that's a good sign. And so he's going to be talking about a lot of the kinds of things we've been talking about in this interview. So password management, how to spot phishing attacks, keeping software up to date, things like that. And it's mainly going to be him speaking, actually. I'm really excited to hear what he says. And from time to time, my colleague Dan and myself will be jumping in to talk about things specifically from an accessibility perspective, because Eric is an expert in general computer security stuff. Most of his specific familiarity with things like screen readers dates from the 1990s, and I'm glad to say they're a bit better now. So we'll be talking about things like how you would use password managers with JAWS, things like that. And that's the kind of thing we'll be talking about. So it should be really interesting. I'm expecting to learn a lot. It's at 1 p.m. Eastern Time live, and then we're doing a repeat recorded at 7 p.m. Eastern Time.
Fantastic. And if people want to get involved, is there a place they need to go?
Yes. We do want people to register. It'll be a Zoom webinar, but we like people to sign up because we want to know how many people are enjoying our programming. So we have it advertised on our website with a form to sign up, as well as an email and phone number if you don't like the form. So it's available on CNIB.ca. Or I think I can give away the email address. If you write us at tsf.tech, TECH, at cnib.ca, we can sign you up right away.
Wendy, David, thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for having us.
What an interesting topic to get into. And, it's funny, we've been talking about doing this topic for some time.
That's what we do. Talking about doing it. Well, it's one of those topics that you hear so much about all the time, cybersecurity, but it's almost a throwaway line because as I said at the start, this covers so many different things. You don't actually know where to start. It all seems a little bit bewildering. So much needed, I think, this webinar.
Yeah, absolutely. But really glad that CNIB are doing the webinar. Full details, of course, available in our show notes on the podcast or at ami.ca, or, of course, on YouTube if you're watching us there. Check out the show notes and we'll give you the links to that, how you can register. And also register for future webinars. We're going to be doing a lot more work with CNIB in the future to talk about these events that are coming up and showcase some of the topics and conversations. We'll be checking in with them every month to find out about what they're doing. We've already scheduled the next one, so this is going to be great. So we're looking forward to this relationship with CNIB and learning more about what's available for you in Canada. It's really important that we talk about these topics. And I just love the fact that, we can talk about it from that perspective of blindness because, how many times do you watch a video or you listen to a podcast and they talk about all these solutions like you guys were talking about? And the first question that comes to mind is, but is it accessible? Is it going to work for me? Can I use this?
Can I actually use it? Yeah, that's always what it comes down to. And it's great to have the technical side of it covered with Eric Schmidt during that webinar, like David said there, but also the fact that they're there to say, hang on, accessibility-wise, here's the score. It's needed.
And also, I think, it's one thing having the guys on to talk about the topic. It's really good. But I think also being part of the webinar will allow, because there'll be Q&As as well, the chance for other people to contribute. That's what I love. I mean, it's what I love about the show. People will get in touch and say, hey, have you tried this? Or, hey, did you know it can do this? And, you go, I didn't know that. And I love that. I just love that. So that's why these webinars are great. And of course, yes, open to all blind Canadians, low vision Canadians, and any Canadian, quite frankly. But if you're not Canadian, you're welcome too. And that's really important. So let's support the work they're doing because we need more of this kind of thing. CNIB.ca for all the information on upcoming events, the particular event we're talking about today in the show notes. Time now to get into some emails. And before we do, let's remind you of how you can get involved with the show if you want to.
Call the Double Tappers now, 1-877-803-4567, or email us, feedback@doubletaponair.com.
Okay, Shaun, there is one topic today that is basically dominating our inbox, and that is Meta AI.
We haven't got time.
Do we need to go
sorry.
early?
No,
we don't, Shaun. No, we don't. No.
Okay,
We
I'm
have
ready.
plenty of time
Lay it on
to
me.
get into this topic. I'm going to kick off with Paul's comment.
Hi, Stephen. Got myself a pair of Meta Ray-Bans and I can't seem to access the AI. Am I missing something? Is it still not available in the United Kingdom? If not, how do I get around this? From Paul.
Thank you, Paul. John also comments.
Hello. Maybe I misheard, but on Shaun's otherwise excellent Shaun of the Shed on setting up the Meta Ray-Bans, I'm sure he said that the AI is available in the UK. But I can confirm that it isn't. At least I was booted out of AI again just now and had to set it up once more using the VPN. It will be nice if it can finally just get released over here. At least with Windscribe, I have a free VPN I can quickly use to enable it again each time it stops working. Keep up the good work. John from AI-less, Northampton.
This is terrible. Any more?
Yes. Ryan has been in touch.
Hello there. My name is Ryan Kelly. I am currently fairly annoyed with Meta Ray-Ban and mildly annoyed with Shaun.
Sorry.
For misinforming us all, I'm afraid. I will put his quote on this message now.
So I'm in the UK and Meta AI is available. It's also...
Yes.
And I'm here to tell you that actually it isn't. It's not available without a VPN. I purchased these for myself and my wife last week, and I went to set them up, and the AI manager just isn't there at all. Having said that, your show hasn't put me wrong yet until now, and I really do like it a lot. I've learned a lot of bits and bobs that I wouldn't have otherwise learned. I should say that I have no vision at all. That should just sort of give you an idea. And yes, I would appreciate it if you could recommend me a decent VPN to use until the update is sorted out. I really do think that Meta need to extract their thumbs from their bums on this one and sort it out. And lastly, I will say that given the story, I can't remember his last name, Brian someone or other, told us the other week about having met someone and influenced this update in this country. Should he have actually influenced that, then all bad luck go with him. Yes, I would appreciate if you could recommend me a VPN, and keep up the good work, guys, which sounds a bit perverse given what I've just said. Take care and all the best.
Thank you, Ryan.
I'm so sorry, Ryan. Okay, any more?
Oh, plenty more, but we'll stop for a second and give you a chance to respond to some of this, because look, it is a difficult topic. Let's maybe try and break this down. We did touch a little bit of this yesterday, in fairness.
We did.
These messages will have come in just after that, or just around the time that episode was broadcast. But where are we with this, Shaun?
Well, that's the point. We still don't know. I suppose we could go down officially. I think Ryan is absolutely right. I don't think on none of the Facebook pages that I can find, or the meta pages regarding AI and the glasses as well, I can find UK as being supported. But again, last night I was going through the blind users of Meta Ray-Ban Facebook group, and there was someone on there again who said, just bought the glasses, just created a Facebook account, and the Meta AI came up straight away. So I opened MetaView this morning, and my Meta AI has disappeared. So honestly, I have no idea. I think the official line has to be that it's not officially supported, but that doesn't tally with the amount of people that are buying these glasses and having access to the Meta AI without any VPN whatsoever. So honestly, I don't know what's going on. I wish we could reach out to Facebook and get an answer on this, because I don't know what is happening. It's as simple as that. I think.
Well, I have reached out. I mean, I have reached out for a question on this, to ask a question on this, to ultimately find out what's going on. And all I hear is it's coming soon, and that it's all down to regulation. And
yes, but then why does it show up?
A bit of confusion around what, EU regulation versus UK regulation, because of course the UK is no longer in Europe.
EU.
Well, in the EU, so we're still in Europe. I mean, the land has not shifted.
Geographically, we're fine.
Remind this to American ones who said, "You're not in Europe anymore," and I'm like, "Oh, we are. We didn't take a saw to that continent and just push ourselves away." Although I think some might have wished we did.
It is annoying, though, right? I can totally understand how people get annoyed. And maybe, no, actually, I won't say maybe. I shouldn't have said it's available here in the UK, just going off the experiences and the hearsay of what I've read and other people, talking to other people. Because, as I said, whilst the majority of people I speak to say, yeah, I've got it, there's still enough out there saying, I haven't got it, or it's gone away again, to make this, okay, I just don't know at the minute. So, yeah, I will put my hands up. I shouldn't have said it's available in the UK.
Okay, but in fairness, you're kind of going off the information you've got. And as you say, there's a lot of contradictions here. So it's not as clear as it's not available.
It seems
it's maybe not supported or officially available, but it is available to some. So, okay, let's park that, right?
Okay.
Because that's where we're at. It seems to me the answer is you need a VPN.
Yes.
So Ryan's second half of his question was, what's a good VPN? What are you using?
Okay, so I am using Personal Internet Access, PIA. I'm not recommending that, though, because I think there's accessibility problems there on different platforms. Absolutely terrible on the Apple TV, by the way. But it's okay on the iPhone. But someone did mention there, sorry, I've forgotten the name, Windscribe, I believe. And that's a free VPN. And I've seen that mentioned a lot, again, in the Facebook blind users of Meta Ray-Ban glasses. I've seen that mentioned often, so I know people are using that to turn on VPN. And again, I think it's so important I make this clear. You don't need the VPN on all the time. You just need it that once when you open MetaView and set it to America, Canada, somewhere where AI is available. And then it will see that and it will turn on and enable Meta AI. And then you can turn that VPN off. So you don't need a month-to-month subscription to keep this going. Now, with that said, as other people have said, the Meta AI may, after 4 weeks, after 6 weeks, after who knows how long, say, okay, I'm disabling it because you're not in the right country. And at that point, turn on the VPN again, enable it again, and switch the VPN off. So if you can find a free VPN, again, I am using PIA, and it did work for me, but I'm not recommending that one because it is a paid one. And I don't think the accessibility is that great. But a lot of people are using Windscribe, so maybe worth a look.
I use NordVPN. and it's okay. I mean, again, I only turn it on and off as I need it. I don't use it all the time. But I do pay for I still don't fully understand how this works in terms of what I'm paying for, how much data I have access to, internet speeds when I'm on that particular VPN, because of course you're connecting via a different route, essentially. I still don't quite get it, if I'm honest, and how it all works and what I'm paying for and what I'm getting and how much security I'm getting with it. It's not really about security for me. It's about accessing, like this is a perfect example of why I would want a VPN right now.
Well, I think
just to get access to this.
The use case for VPNs has changed. It used to be mainly, and it's still sold this way, as a secure connection to your computer or another computer. Right?
Yeah.
All the traffic on a VPN is encrypted, so it's more secure. That's less important now for most people. I'm going to say most people, because a lot of the apps that we use have end-to-end encryption anyway, and a lot of the websites do anyway. So it's less important than it was. It's still a factor, though, but most people just want it to get around these geo fences where you're locked out of watching some sort of audio-described content, let's say, on a streaming service because it's only available in this country, but not in yours. So a lot of people use it for that. And that's why these VPN companies are now put in limits. Okay, you can only have 10 gig of data a month unless you pay more. But in the case of the Meta Ray-Bans, because we're just using it to trigger that the AI is available, we only need, it doesn't matter to us. So if you can get one for free without paying monthly for it, because you don't need it every month, just need it at one time and turn it off again, then that's the way to go.
Yeah, that sounds good. And also, you talk about streaming, but the streaming companies are really clamping down on this now. I mean, where it used to be, you could pretty much pick your country and then, dive into the entire contents of that library in that country. Now, I mean, Amazon Prime Video, for example, will note that you're on a VPN and immediately come up with, you're traveling. Here's what's available to you while you're traveling, which means a cut down library of content that may be available across different territories. And the content that is not available in that, or is available in the other territory, will not show up in that app. Netflix is a bit different. It does still show, but then Netflix is really clamping down on it as well because they know people are using it for other reasons.
Yeah.
And, obviously there are contractual reasons why. I mean, there are good reasons why, as much as we'd love to just have every show ever made available to us anywhere.
Yeah.
It's just not possible. And that's how these shows and how these actors and how all the people who make these shows make money. That's how it works. So, you can't just have this open forum of being able just to buy anything or watch anything from anywhere.
No, we should be clear. You may be breaking T's and C's if you say you're in one country and you're not. Yeah, so you do need to be careful with that. But I'm just being honest. In real life, that's what people are using VPNs for.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I mean, VPNs are good, and obviously then you can get one set up and you've got it, and like you say, you can just turn it off and on as you require it. In terms of functionality, though, there does seem to be good reason to want Meta AI, and it certainly seems to be improving all the time. Of course, that new Meta Lab, well, I mean, it is improving. I mean, look, there's no denial they're working on it. It may be more gradual than what we see from OpenAI, for example. I think if OpenAI came out tomorrow with a pair of glasses, I think we'd all be rather interested, right? Because
if Meta rolled out Llama 3.2, what we saw in the event with that conversational styling of having a tool.
Well, they will. That's the point.
Yes,
right?
they will. When that happens, absolutely. But I'm still of the opinion that Meta AI isn't the main reason to buy the Meta Ray-Bans. Not right now. I mean, it can be useful. Don't get me wrong. But far more useful is the WhatsApp video calling. That is fantastic. The Be My Eyes integration, when it's officially rolled out, that's going to be fantastic as well. Ira, if you're on the beta, when that's officially rolled out, those for me are the reasons to go out and rush out and buy them. Not the Meta AI. Even though that is interesting and useful, it's not the main reason for me.
And I think as well, if you have bought them, I think there's a sense of disappointment at the moment. Certainly hear that in Ryan's voice. There's a disappointment in not getting all these features today. I think the way to look at this is you've made the investment, but the features will come. So it's not a case of they're never going to arrive here. They will. They will get here. You will get access to all these features. And I think by then you may even see there's even more coming down the line. And that's the great thing about this technology now. You're not buying something that's, it's dead in the water in a couple of months' time, or, that's it, the updates have stopped, you've got to buy something new. This is still at the beginning in some degree. And I think, Meta have said it themselves. We've heard it now from them. They were surprised by the take-up of Meta Ray-Bans over anything else. And, the interest is just growing all the time from the mainstream community as much as from the blind community. And I think that's massive for us because that means we know the investment will continue. Yeah. And what's more important is you have companies in the room. You've got Envision, you've got Be My Eyes. They're in the room talking to Meta, working with Meta to integrate blind-specific feature sets and, AI-driven technologies and, building in even just the calling. And I say just the calling like it's nothing. It's huge.
Yeah, it is.
Being able to call a volunteer by voice on your glasses, I mean, that is going to change people's lives in itself.
Yeah.
So, this is where we're going. And it's a gradual process and it never goes fast enough. And everyone wants everything to be alive now. And I get it. But,
I don't know.
Can I just say this? I've got to say, when you think about, I know we talk a lot about price and I talk a lot about cost of specialist equipment and all that. Look at where we're at today with the kind of technology that we have. So think about, for example, the Meta Ray-Bans, an iPhone or an Android. You're well set up and all of that is fully accessible to you.
Yes.
And a cost which is the same as what anybody else would pay. So it's not like it's going to cost more for you because you're blind. You're going to have to buy something extra. The days of, buying a Nokia phone but having to spend extra on
£250
on talk software.
Yes.
I mean, there's some people would say, well, it's the same right now for Windows users. I mean, you could say, well, yes, you do pay extra for JAWS, but at least you have an option.
Yeah.
You've got a free screen reader and narrator, which is, becoming more serviceable by the day.
Yes.
And certainly way more than it used to be. And of course, NVDA, which is free as well. Mac has VoiceOver, Chrome has, Chromevox. So I think it's really good that there's such an amount of choices out there in the mainstream world that therefore, in some ways, if you can't afford to get into the world of specialist technology, going beyond to talk Braille or whatever else, and I'm talking here specifically about blind people, you could get away with it. You could get on. Your life, you can survive without all that. You can get on with it. I think, that there's such an impetus on Braille, especially this year because of the 200 years. And I get it. But then I think about the people who can't access this stuff. And and I know we've had this conversation, but I just feel that sometimes I get the messages back from people who it almost gives me the impression that we should just accept it. Just accept the price. Just get over it. Stop talking about it.
Yeah.
Just pay the money and shut up. And it's like, I'm sorry, that's just not good enough. And it's not, and it's all very well saying that if you're in a position that you can afford to buy it. But I've known friends of mine over the years who say, oh yeah, I spend, 40 grand on a car. And I've got friends who could barely, stump up £200 on a new car. It's like, you turn around to that person and say, oh, just go and buy it. Just go and buy it. If you can't buy it, shut up. Well, that's not really good enough, is it? So I think we need to look at, and that's why this show was built. This whole purpose of this program was to talk about the technology that wasn't the specialist technology. It was to talk about the mainstream options and look at where we're at today. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, so I just wanted to, kind of just bring a bit of perspective to this because we all jump ahead and say, but why can't it do this? And why can't it read my menus? And give it time, guys. Come on, just a little bit of patience.
Oh, at the same time, I'm fed up of being patient. I want it all now. I am very Veruca Salts.
I get it.
Yeah, but look, you're right. And I think the important word there is options. We have far more options now than we've ever had before when it comes to accessibility. And of course, it's not all, everything's great now. But we got far more options.
Oh, look, come on. I mean, look, I know it's not great. I mean, look, there are issues, of course. There are bugs. There are annoyances, of course.
Yes.
But that is nothing compared to where we were 10, 15 years ago. I mean, come on.
Oh, I agree.
I mean, Can we just agree there's been a huge amount of progress here? Well, it's like, oh, yeah, but my iPhone locks up when I look at it. Oh, shut up. Just shut up.
Didn't we have a 10-minute rant on audio description availability the other day?
Look, but that's because it's not there.
Okay, yes. Well, it is kind of there, but it's not great.
No, it's not. It's not there in the way it should be there. It's not available to people. That's different.
Well, just be patient, Stephen Scott. We'll get there.
Yeah, all right, I'll just be patient. I'll just sit here. I'm getting back to books.
Okay.
They're too long. Actually, you know what I could do? I could get AI to summarize all my books I'd like to read into one paragraph. Then I'd read more.
That's actually not a bad idea.
I could live with that. I mean, it'd be like, 1984 in a day. There you go. That's it. Basically 1 year in a day. That would be ideal for me. Let's do that.
Right.
Right. I want to get to another couple of messages because this conversation, of course, has been going on and enraging people around the world, in particular in the UK, of course, because of the whole Meta AI thing. But let's hear from T-Bone, who has something to say on this.
Hey, Steven and Shaun, love the podcast. This is T-Bone from Canada. I was listening to your review of the new Meta sunglasses and stuff that came out last week with all the news, and it's super exciting. But there's two things I think that are most exciting about what Meta Connect said last week. The first is when Mark Zuckerberg said that he believes that the way we're going to interact with LLM models basically and wearables is through our voice. Why this is crazy is that we haven't changed the way we've interacted with computers since ever. It's still the keyboard and mouse. Since the frickin' 80s, we're still using these tools to interact with the computer. And I remember in university, over 10 years ago, taking a course where in computer engineering where the teacher was saying, hey guys, I want you to do a project and try and envision a new way to interact with the computer. And it was brutally hard and no one came up with anything pretty good. But now with these models, finally we can use our voice or who knows what other kind of tools that will be useful to interact with computers, which is pretty crazy for obviously visually impaired and blind people. That's going to change our life. But imagine just the average person, if you want to use a computer, you can just speak to it. Often people know what they want to do with a computer. Why do they have to do this, some weird random set of keys that don't make sense, and one's called caps lock, and one's called FN, and this other stuff? It's all gibberish. The keys aren't even in alphabetical order. Like, I know we're good at it and we're used to it, but it's pretty abstract and nonsensical. The voice is so much more natural. So I think it's going to unlock so much potential over the next few years. The other thing that I was thinking about that's really interesting is Meta specifically, they're not the only ones, but anyway, just stick with them for a sec. They're doing smart glasses. They're doing their Project Orion thing, which is I think like an AR reality set, and then they have their MetaQuest stuff that they've been doing. They're pushing the bounds of what people can see and getting involved with vision, and soon enough they're going to hit a limit where they're like, man, we really need to like mix digital, screens with our natural human vision, and they're going to have to go deeper into the visual function of our eyes and our brain fundamentally. So I don't know if they do this now. Honestly, I don't really know the field that well, but maybe they're already doing it. But I suspect that eventually they're going to start pushing just basic vision research so they can get further with their devices. And that's going to unlock a lot of things too for, let's say, future, whether it's like, I don't want to sound overly optimistic here, but, future retinal implants or brain implants like Neuralink, because a lot of those things are lacking some basic research. They're not there yet. So if companies like Facebook or Google start filling in those gaps, hiring scientists out of from ophthalmology and stuff to help them figure it out, that would be crazy for our field as well. So those are two things that really I find exciting. One more short term, and the thing more long term. But I love the podcast, guys. I want to see what you think about it. Bye.
Thank you so much, T-Bone. Love your comments. Love your optimism about all this. And like I say, look at the progress we've made. Look at where we've come, and goodness me, look where we're going as well. I mean, just some of the stuff you're talking about there. I mean, even just the keyboard model. You're right. I mean, it's so antiquated. It's so old. It's so like, why? If you were developing a computer today, this is not what you would build. It just would make no sense. And the voice model absolutely does.
Yes, of course. As I've said before, I think that the most amazing thing about AI for me is the way it understands speech and the conversation. It absolutely revolutionizes the way we interact with technology. But we have got to be careful of saying this is the way to do it, because people with speech. Well, no, people with speech. It's like when the whole shift, when the iPhone came out, the whole shift to touchscreen came about. And of course, we as a community, as people who maybe not be able to see the screen, either not so well or at all, we're feeling, okay, this is getting worrying now because the whole thing is shifting to touchscreen, right, as the input method, as the way to interact with tech. And although speech seems fantastic for me, there's going to be people out there who may be getting worried about that because, hey, I've got a speech impediment or whatever it may be, and voice isn't the best way. So there's always got to be an alternative way. Eye tracking on the new iPhone in iOS 18 seems absolutely amazing to me as a way to interact with a device, right? No external hardware needed. It's built in there. So I think we got to be careful of this is the best way to interact.
Yeah.
But I do agree with you. In my case, I can't wait to just chat to my devices.
Yeah, and just after that rant, I just want to say that's not what T-Bone said at all. He just said he likes the idea of it. It's the way to go.
Yes, but you said the keyboard was terrible and antiquated. It's not. It still works
I'm not
very
suggesting
well.
we get rid of it.
That's
What, am I in charge suddenly? Am I deciding? Because goodness me,
Yes,
if that's
you
the
are.
case,
Yes.
we are in serious trouble. You thought the world was in a mess. You've no idea. Listen.
And the coolest name ever, T-Bone. Thank you.
Thank you, T-Bone. I'm hungry. We are back tomorrow. We'll catch you then.
Thank you.